You never look at you the way I do because you don't have the same exact vantage point, but you're kind of a tough crowd. We have people who have lots of education, people who have education from the hard knock school. We have people with EDDs and PhD and people with ADD and other DDs. And so I have this whole spectrum of trying to figure out what's going to give you a sense of what God's Word is. So today, let's see, we have confirmation kids today? Yes? Let me see. Hands, they're there. They're mostly in the back. Okay, and I'm going to give you a hint here. This is what the sermon is going to be. 3 little vignettes. Those are mini stories. Then we're going to talk about the theology of prevenient grace. And then I want to talk about the practical serving ministry of cutlery and flatware on the properly set table. So those are the 3 pieces. See, when I do this on Thursday, these things are so brilliant in my mind. And sometimes when I unwrap them on Sunday, not so brilliant. But we're going to try today, and God's Spirit is with us. So 3 vignettes, prevenient grace, and then a discussion of cutlery. Okay. There's a man, late 30s, early 40s. And at one time, this man was a physical specimen to behold. Tall, broad shoulders, confident, moved effortlessly wherever he went. A man you would notice. Now you notice him for a different reason. Every day, tooth and nail, he's fighting an illness. He would still be as tall, except he's stooped over now. You notice him because he moves slowly and hesitantly and shuffles his feet. Today he makes his way out of his apartment building, carefully holding the railing, going down the stairs to the sidewalk, makes a left turn and goes 2 blocks to the McDonald's. He orders what he does there for breakfast every day. English muffin, not buttered, a little jelly on the side, a cup of coffee. And you know that he's fighting a battle and things aren't right because the coffee shakes in the cup all the way up to his lips. He eats his breakfast by himself, goes out to the left, 2 more blocks to the hospital. And as he pushes the button on the elevator, he goes past the 1st floor to the 2nd floor. The 3rd floor is where he was yesterday for tests and treatment. But he goes beyond that floor to the 4th floor, the 5th floor, and stops at the 6th floor. The door opens and he shuffles in his hunched over way to the nurse's station, opens the volunteer booklet, signs in his name, takes his badge, and shuffles on the natal floor to the rocking chair room. And when he gets there, he reaches down into the crib with these huge hands, still somewhat shaky, and picks up this little tiny crack baby who will be his for the next hour. And he holds her to his chest. And he sits in the rocking chair. And he sings her a lullaby, but you can't really hear it exactly. It's just his little baby feels it because it rumbles in his chest and touches her ears, her head, her heart. And in that hour, he's no longer hunched over. He's no longer infirmed. You know who he is? He is among you as one who serves. Go back to a few days after 9/11. And a lady, an African-American woman, comes walking slowly with her cane up to the first security point. And the African-American security guard realizes he can't stop her from going through because it'd be like stopping his mom. Plus, she's got that cane. And she says, I have places to be. And she walks with her cane past the rubble to the church at the foot of where the Twin Towers used to be. And she goes in and finds the priest and says, I heard there was a rescue worker injured who hurt his leg looking for people in the rubble. And he said, yes, that's right. And she said, I came to give him my cane. And the priest knows he had better not turn that offer down. And so he takes the cane and says, thank you, ma'am. And she limps off through the rubble back to her house. Who is she? She is among you as one who serves. And a little boy and girl, 6, 7 years old, down the street from them in their affluent suburb is a lady, divorced, who's just lost her 17-year-old son in a car accident. And the kids are worried about her. And they try to figure out what they can do. So they go to the cupboard drawer and pull out a Ziploc bag and go to the pantry, even though they're going to get in trouble for it, and take out 3 Oreo cookies and drop them in the Ziploc bag and seal it tight. And on their way out of the house, they stop at the game closet and grab a tattered box of chutes and ladders. And they walk down the street and knock on the door. And the lady comes with her eyes rimmed in red. And the little boy says, would you like a cookie? We'd like someone to play with us. And they sit on her porch, each with an Oreo, and play chutes and ladders. You know where you can find that little boy and little girl? They are among you as ones who serve. There is this wonderful, powerful theological statement called prevenient grace. And it's really based on an easy word, but it's a word that's changed its meaning. So we don't always know what's going on. It's the word prevent. In Psalm 59, verse 10, in the King James Version, it talks about God preventing us. And in our language, that means stopping. If I'm going to prevent you from something, I stop you from it. But in those days, the word meant to go on ahead. The idea of prevenient grace is that God goes on ahead of us to make the way easier, better, possible. And it's easier for us to go that step because God's already there. It's preventative grace. It's prevenient grace. It means all of that journey, that whole path, is just strewn with God's grace. At the end, grace. At the beginning, grace. On the way, grace. It's prevenient grace. It's everywhere. It abounds. And that's what Jesus wants the disciples to know. How do you know me, he says. Who do you know who I am? Look at where I am. I am among you as one who serves. When we looked at this passage in the staff meeting, some of the staff wanted to cut it off before it gets into the kingdoms and the powers and the sitting up there and the responsibilities, and some of the books say judgment, and they said, oh, we don't want to do that. But what it really means is the example that Jesus is giving is how you get ready to lead, how you accept responsibilities, because judging over the tribes of Israel means taking responsibility for their life and their well-being and their care. And he says, you're not there yet, but you're going to have the opportunity to be responsible for other people. And how do you get there? You do the same thing I did. I came at the behest of my Father, and I serve. You know me principally as a servant. Because if you haven't noticed yet, think of the people that you admire. You don't admire them because of their proclamation. You admire them because of their demonstration. Anybody can do the words. Jesus was not mostly about the preaching. He was mostly about the showing. I am, he says to them, among you as one who serves. I read a story once that talked about all of the different component pieces of a table setting. And I was at a dinner a few months ago, I guess, and I was really bored, and I make up little scenarios in my mind just to amuse myself when I'm that way. When I go to the mall, and, Jody goes one way, Jeannie goes the other way, I just sit there and make up stories about people's lives. Sometimes I want to stop them and ask how close I am, but I never do that because, it could get troublesome. But anyway, I'm sitting at the table and I'm thinking, which piece of silverware would I like to be? Sorry, this is what amuses me. And I got to thinking, and I remember this article that I read before about how the world is divided into cutlery pieces. I can't find it, but I'm just telling you, it's not originally my idea. It's just been working back there for a lot of years. There are in our society the fork people. These are the gimme people. I see it, I stab it, it's mine. They're the gimmies. I want that, and that, and that, and that, and I'm putting it over here. And then there are the knife people. These are the control freak people. They know how they want things to be, and when they look at you, they're already thinking how they can carve you into a new shape. I could make you into this, and I can make you do that. And sometimes what's really scary is where the forks and the knives get a coalition, and they stab it and they carve it, and they stab it and they carve it, and you don't have a chance because it's the gimme people and the control people. And that's awful. I would want to be a spoon. There's a lot to be said about spoons. There are more spoon types than there are anything else as far as, they go from the little ones, those little aspartame serving spoons you can do, all the way up to the big, I need more dressing. Okay, we're bringing in the spoon because we're going to... And they work great. Right at the beginning, you have the spoon that can handle hot soup right at the beginning of the meal. I need some soup, please. Okay, I'll spoon it in there. And then, at the end, when you're ready for ice cream, guess who's the best? Spoon, that's right. You go back to the spoon. Because the spoons in their whole cutlery life are about serving. Could you serve me some more potatoes, please? Sure, I'm going to get the knife. No, you don't want the knife. I can fork you a little bit, but if you want potatoes, I'm going to get the spoon. Right? Because that... And if you look at it now, at least at the table where I was, and I counted, there were like 4 forks and 4 knives. I knew how to use one knife and 2 different kinds of forks, but there were, when you get it all done, there were 8 spoons. Because a lot of serving needs to be done. And if you said, where am I going to find the spoon? They would say, we're among you as the cutlery who serves. So, look at it this way. When you say, I want to find God, where's God? Help me locate God. After all, this is the being whose hands clapped and it was the Big Bang, who made galaxies and threw them against the firmament, who rolled little balls and made planets. Where am I going to find God? Where do we find Jesus? He's touching the sores of the leper. He's making little healing paste for the eyes of the blind man. He's kneeling at the foot of the disciples to wash their feet. He's standing at the table serving food. Where do I find the King and Creator of the universe, the Master of all that is, the highest and most lifted up being, the one who is not only in time, but beyond time and above time? Where do I find him? He is among you as one who serves. And if people in our lives want to find us, wouldn't it be great if we could say, I am among you as one who serves? Puts us right in the place God has called us to be.